Chapter 6. Mad as a Hornet. The next morning, Stink woke up on the sunny side up side of bed. He did not even count his jawbreakers or play with microbots. Today was the day he got to wear glow-in-the-dark pajamas to school. Double cool with a K. He ran downstairs. He looked under a mouse. He looked in the laundry pile jumbled on the couch. He looked on top of the washing machine. Where were his glow-in-the-dark pajamas? That's when he saw it. A great big ball of lint. Not just any old mousy gray lint. A super-galactic, neon bright, glow-in-the-dark ball of not gray lint. Uh-oh. If this was what he thought it was, Stink was going to be mad as a hornet. He ran to find Mom. "Stink, honey," she told him. "I'm sorry to tell you that there was a problem with the new pajamas." Problem pajamas? Pajamas should not have problems. Math tests should have problems. Brain teasers should have problems. Inventors should have problems. This? Stink held out the super-galactic planet-sized lint ball. "I'm afraid so," said Mom. "One wash and all the glow stuff rubbed off." Just then, Judy rushed into the room. "Look at me! My brand new Bonjour bunny shirt. It turned alien green. I look like a lime lollipop." "You mean my glow-in-the-dark stuff rubbed off on her?" "Huh?" asked Judy. Mom held up the pajamas. The baking was just black wavy lines, and the sunny side up eggs were sunny side down brown mud pies. "No way can I wear those," said Stink. "Think of it as scrambled eggs, Stink," said Judy. "I could try sending them back to Grandma Lou," said Mom. "Maybe she can take them back. But you won't have any new pajamas to wear today." "Your choice." Pajama day was going to be a big fat flop. Instead of way cool glow-in-the-dark PJs, all Stink had to wear was a lousy lint ball. "Send them back," said Stink. "Those bacon and eggs are toast." Mom still made him write a thank you letter to Grandma Lou to send back with the pajamas. "Dear Grandma Lou, thank you, but no thank you for the pajamas. At first I thought they were for babies, and Judy said I looked like a walking menu. Then I saw they glow in the dark, and I changed my mind. But all the glow stuff rubbed off, and now I look like scrambled eggs. So I'm sending them back to you. I hope they didn't cost an arm and a leg, and you can take them back. If not, maybe give them to the Museum of Not Glow-in-the-Dark Pajamas. Maybe next time you could send me something besides homework pajamas. Not jawbreakers, though. Love, Stink." While Stink was writing his letter, Judy took the pajamas upstairs. She was up there all during breakfast. When she came back down, she announced, "Stink, I solved your pajama problem." "Huh?" asked Stink. Judy dragged Stink by the arm into the coat closet and shut the door. "Hey, something glowed, like a nightlight, like 1,001 fireflies." "My pajamas," said Stink. "What did you do? How did you?" "I painted them with glow-in-the-dark paint," said Judy, "so you don't have to send them back. The eggs are jellyfish now, and the bacon strips are electric eels." "Jumping jawbreaker," said Stink. "Thanks," he hugged his sister. "This is the way coolest ever. Now I won't be the only kid in the whole second grade without cool pajamas, and I'll be the only one who glows." "Does this mean I can have a free candy bar now?" asked Judy. "We'll see," said Stink. Idiom Comics presents That Cost an Arm and a Leg by Stink Moody. The new art store is open! Stink found just what he wanted. Wow! The RoboPen 3000. It remembers what you draw and can draw all by itself. Cool doodle. I say nice things about your art. Stink looked at the price. I've only got $20 and I'll give my right arm too. Throw in your left leg and you've got a deal. Man, that's one pricey pen. Chapter 7, Double Trouble. When Stink got to class 2D, his teacher was wearing a fuzzy, think pink bathrobe. She also had bunny slippers and a pillow and a real live dog with bad breath named Pickles. Stink forgot all about sunny side down eggs. He forgot about giant lint balls. What in the world could be better than wearing not itchy, glow-in-the-dark pajamas to school and reading all day? Stink plopped his sleeping bag next to his super best friend Webster. Are those your pajamas? He asked. They're not my soccer uniform, said Webster. But how would you know? I got them for my birthday. Webster sure was being a grump. Stink did not know why. He hunkered down inside his sleeping bag and stuck his nose in a pop-up book of animal skeletons. He propped his head up on Fang, his 6-foot-long stuffed animal snake. He popped a free fireball in his mouth. Want one? He asked Webster. You're not allowed to eat candy in school, said Webster. He turned the other way and stuck his nose in a book. Stink, Webster, did you hear? Asked Sophie of the elves. We're having a pajama parade. We get to walk through all the halls, and we get to go to a special assembly in the library, where Mrs. Mac will tell stories from around the world. And she wears hats and plays drums, and I get to sit by you guys. Who cares? Said Webster. What's wrong with him? Stink asked Sophie. Sophie just shrugged. Wow, pajama parade, assembly. Assemblies in the library were the best. Stink could not wait to hear stories from around the world with hats and drums. Mrs. D's second grade class paraded past the office and even down the 5th grade hall. In the library, Stink sat beside Sophie of the elves. Webster was right behind Stink. Mrs. D pointed for Webster to sit down in the space right next to Stink. I'm not sitting by him, said Webster. Let's not make a mountain out of a molehill, said Mrs. D. Webster sat down. Mrs. Mac, the librarian, held up 2 fingers. Let's show what good listeners we are at the Virginia Dare School, said Mrs. Mac. And remember, said Mrs. D, let's keep our hands to ourselves. Stink couldn't stand being ignored, especially by his best friend. As soon as Mrs. Mac started to tell a story, Stink tapped Webster on the shoulder when he wasn't looking, just for fun. Hey, said Webster. Stink pretended to be listening to the story. Webster tapped Stink on the shoulder, then pretended his hands were in his lap. Stink tapped him back. Webster tapped him back harder. Ow, said Stink. Stink, whispered Mrs. D. She pointed to Stink and Webster to settle down and keep quiet. You guys are in trouble, whispered Sophie of the elves. Now, said Mrs. Mac, we're going to turn down the lights and travel to deepest Africa. I hope you like scary stories. The lights went out. Stink glowed like a nightlight. Mrs. D would sure see him now if he tapped Webster again. Stink pulled both of his arms all the way inside his pajama shirt, just to be safe. He did not want his tapping fingers to get him into any more trouble. Drum beats filled the air. Mrs. Mac made her voice low and whispery. The folk tale was all about the bad one, the spooky voice coming from inside a cave. The voice sounded so big and bad he was scaring the pants off all the other animals in the rainforest. At the end, the bad one turned out to be nothing but a centipede. Phew! A South African red-legged centipede. Stink knew all about centipedes. Once, in the Toad Pea Club with my sister, he told Webster, we tried to set a record for the longest human centipede. So? Said Webster. Stink forgot all about paying attention. Something was wrong with Webster. He tried to make up a centipede joke to tell Webster. What goes 99 clunk? Stink asked Webster. Or 33 clunk? Or 67 clunk? Webster ignored him. A centipede with a broken leg. Stink cracked up. He flashed his fireball red tongue at Webster. Webster did not even crack a smile. Mrs. Mack was asking, how many legs does a centipede have? Stink knew the answer. He went to raise his hand, but his arms were still inside his pajama shirt. 100, said a first grader in the front row. Stink knew 100 was not the whole answer. He just had to raise his hand. He tried to raise an elbow from inside his shirt. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Something had happened to Stink's pajama top. It shrank. Stink wiggled and tried to worm his way out of the shirt. Help! Where were the armholes? It was still dark. He couldn't see a thing. His shirt was all twisted. His arms were all caught. His elbows poked inside his shirt like a punching bag, but he couldn't find his way out. Help! Stink was stuck inside his pajama top. The name centipede means 100 feet. That's why we think all centipedes have 100 legs, said Mrs. Mack. Stink was still wrestling with his pajamas. The top went up over his head. Stink lost his head. He wrestled some more. Finally, he poked his arm out. Ow! He heard Webster cry. Hey! You sucker punched me! He shoved Stink into Sophie of the Elves. Hey! Said Stink. I was only... Boys, said Mrs. D, come with me. First a shirt, then hitting Webster. Double trouble. All the lights were on now. The room was suddenly somebody got in trouble quiet. Webster had his head down and looked like he was going to cry. Everybody stared at the boys as they followed Mrs. Dempster out into the hallway. Okay, you two, what's this fighting all about? I thought you were the best of friends. Stink started it, said Webster. I was just sitting there and he punched me for no reason. I didn't mean to hit him, honest, said Stink. It's all my pajamas' fault. I got stuck inside my shirt. Cross my heart. No lie. I was just trying to raise my hand to say that most centipedes have 15 pairs of legs, but some have up to 177 pairs. And if a leg gets cut off, it grows back, and some centipedes even glow in the dark. So it was an accident? Asked Mrs. Dempster. Yes, said Stink. Can you say you're sorry, Stink? Sorry, Webster, said Stink. I didn't mean to hit you. Webster, said Mrs. Dempster, are you okay now? Do you need to go see the nurse? Whatever, said Webster. Boy, Stink said, I never knew pajamas could get a person into so much trouble. But Webster was already walking down the hall towards the nurse's office. His back was mad. Even his hair was mad. Idiom Comics presents Making a Mountain Out of a Molehill by Judy Moody. Hey, Mr. Mole, that's gonna be mad. You made our lawn look like the surface of the moon. It's no big deal, just a few bumps. The next day, I'll show Stink what a big deal is. Mole. Yikes. And I thought I was making a mountain out of a molehill. Want to go mountain climbing with me? Chapter 8. Feel like a heel. Stink felt lousy. Within a not 100-legged centipede, he dragged himself home from school, down the street, up the sidewalk, and in the front door. Dad was home early. How was pajama day? He asked Stink. Terrible, said Stink. I had one of those terrible, horrible, no good, very bad, just like that kid's book yuck days. What's wrong? asked Mom, coming into the room. Stink hit his friend Webster today, Judy said, at the library assembly. It was all over school. He got in way big trouble and the teacher took him out and yelled at him up and down and the whole school saw and... That's enough, Judy, said Dad. It wasn't my fault, said Stink. It was my pajamas' fault. Stink told Mom and Dad what happened. I'm going to write a letter to the pajama people and tell them their pajamas got me in big trouble and made me lose my best friend, said Stink. No more letters, said Judy. No more letters, said Mom. Well, maybe one more, said Dad. How about a letter of apology to your friend Webster? Stink went upstairs. He hid the troublemaker PJs in the way back of his bottom dresser drawer, where the pinchy underwear, socks with holes, and the 2 baby I Love Trucks pajamas from last year were. Then Stink worked on the letter as if it was homework. Dear Webster, I am really sorry I punched you when I was just trying to tell about centipedes. Don't be mad at me anymore. Please, 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 with jawbreakers on top. Sincerely, super sorry, Stink. Stink searched around his desk for an envelope. He would put the letter on Webster's desk tomorrow. Hello? What was this? Under a pile of jawbreakers, Stink found an envelope. Not an empty envelope. A messy handwritten envelope addressed to Stink Moody, as in him. All of a sudden, Stink remembered getting the messy writing letter. But he'd been too busy counting his jawbreakers to even open it. He ripped it open now. You are invited, said the card. It was spelled out in balloons held by gorillas. The card was from Webster. It was for his birthday party, and his birthday party was Saturday. Last Saturday. Stink had missed Webster's birthday. Now he knew why Webster was such a grump. Stink felt like a heel. No, he felt like 177 pairs of heels. Worse than a broken-legged centipede. Stink felt like a stink bug. He had to think of some way to make it up to Webster. They just had to be friends again. Had to. Stink thought and thought. He petted Mouse. He petted Toady. He scratched his head a lot. Scratching your head was supposed to help you think, right? All it did was make him look like he had fleas. At last, Stink got an idea. He went downstairs to get Dad in on his idea. Then he finished the letter to Webster. P.S. I missed your party because I never got the invitation. I mean, I got it, but it was hidden under a lot of jawbreakers. I guess I was so into my jawbreakers, I forgot everything else. You will get a special birthday surprise, better than a letter. All I can say is, look out. Hint, it starts with the letter C. But you'll never guess. Idiom Comics presents I Feel Like a Heel by Stink Moody. Stink did not see Mouse sleeping. Meow! Hey, you heard me, Mr. Bigfoot. I'm sorry, I feel like a real heel. You look like one too. Hey, you smell like one too. Chapter number 9. A leopard can change its spots. Stink got to school early and slipped the letter inside Webster's desk. He watched Webster read it. Webster looked up. He looked over at Stink. You mean you didn't miss my birthday on purpose? No way, said Stink. Just like I didn't sucker punch you on purpose. You gotta believe me. Webster grinned from ear to ear. Friends? asked Stink. Friends, said Webster. So what's the big surprise, huh? What's CG? Come on, tell me. I can't wait. My lips are sealed, said Stink. zippering his lips. Does it stand for card game? Asked Webster. Cinderella's glass slipper? Asked Sophie of the Elves. Cucumbers and grapes? Asked Webster. Crazy glue? No, no, and nope, said Stink. You just have to wait. My dad's bringing it. But Mrs. D said not until the end of the day. Waiting was harder than writing letters, harder than punctuation, harder than spelling sincerely. At the end of the day, Mrs. D read 11 pages from Sophie of the Elves' favorite chapter book about a brave mouse and an evil rat. Finally, at last, an announcement over the PA system. Special delivery for class 2D. Stink Moody to the front office. Wow, cool. Hey, what? Huh? Everybody buzzed. Stink walked, not ran, down to the office and came back to class with Dad. A rainbow bright rooster piñata and 21,280 jawbreakers, not to mention all sorts of candy bars, microbots, and monkey pencils. Candygram, Stink announced. I repeat, Candygram for Webster Gomez. Webster was already at the door. He had never ever seen so much candy in his whole entire life. For me? Wowee! To celebrate your birthday, said Stink, with the whole class. Piñata party, everybody was saying. A candygram, said Sophie of the Elves. CG is for candygram. I never get a candygram before. It's like a telegram, only better. Where'd you get all the candy and stuff? Asked Sophie. I got it free, sort of by mistake, on purpose. Dad and Mrs. D filled the piñata with candy and goodies. Dad got to stand on the teacher's desk. He hung the piñata from the ceiling. Who wants to go first? Asked Dad, holding out the blindfold. Webster, called Stink. Dad put the blindfold on Webster and handed him the stick. Stand back, everybody, Dad called. On the count of 3, said Mrs. D. Webster swung the stick. It sliced the air this way and that. Whoosh, swoosh. Go, Webster, go, everybody yelled. Over this way. You're getting warm. Bam! Webster finally hit the piñata. Nothing. Class 2D was super quiet. Let's try again, in French, said Mrs. D. Un, dos, tres. Bam! Webster hit the piñata again. Still nothing. That rooster doesn't want to crow, said Dad. I'll help, called Stink. Let's swing the stick together. 3's a charm, said Mrs. D. Give it your best try. In Spanish, everybody. Uno, dos, tres. Kapow! Webster and Stink hit the piñata again. Bam, 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 crack! They cracked open the piñata. Cock-a-doodle-doo! The rooster let out a loud sound for real. Everybody screamed. A flood of candy rained down. Jawbreakers and Twizzlers, Milk Duds and peanut butter yucks. The kids raced to the front. They grabbed candy from all over the floor, under desks, behind the bookcase, even in the trash can. It's raining cats and dogs, said Stink. Cool cats and Scotty dogs. We really hit the jackpot, said Webster. That was more fun than a barrel of monkeys, said Sophie of the Elves. Marvelous. I can see we've really learned our idioms, said Mrs. D. Now let's divide up all the treats fair and square, share and share alike. Stink stared at his own sweet pile of treats and treasures on his desk. It was a lot smaller than 21,280 jawbreakers. But when he saw Webster's face and the whole class full of grins, he felt good inside, unrotten to the core, like the sweet, gooey bubblegum center of a jawbreaker. I'm proud of you, Stink, said Dad. I think you proved a leopard can change its spots. I like the way you and your dad work together, said Mrs. D, smiling. Two heads are better than one, and friends are better than all the free stuff in the world, said Stink. Is that another idiom? Asked Webster. No, it's a stinkium, said Stink. The end. And here's the list of idioms in order of appearance. Kid in a candy store, get up on the wrong side of the bed, rotten to the core, sour grapes, strike a deal, finger lickin' good, down in the dumps, a leopard can't change its spots, two heads are better than one, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, practice makes perfect, when it rains it pours, put your thinking cap on, knock on wood, jaw dropped open, free as a bird, green with envy. Don't let the bedbugs bite, out of the blue, just my luck. Cute as a bug's ear, mad as a hornet, cost an arm and a leg. Double trouble, make a mountain out of a molehill, lost his head, cross my heart, feel like a heel. Grin from ear to ear, my lips are sealed, you're getting warm, there's a charm. It's raining cats and dogs, hit the jackpot. More fun than a barrel of monkeys, fair and square, and last but not least, share and share alike. That's it. Thank you for watching, guys.